On this fugitive edition of Game, our resident game guru, the Fraggot, goes on the run with the latest racer in the Need for Speed franchise. We find out just what goes on behind the making of the blockbuster Uncharted 3. And from survival to deep blue cannon fodder, we've got it all in our list of weekly free-to-play gems. Let's get ready to inconvenience some electrons. This is Game. Hello darlings, and welcome to your weekly dose of gaming goodness. My name is Kelly and this is possibly the best show on the planet, Game. And yes, I'm totally biased. But to someone who's not so biased, in fact, he's extremely pragmatic, diplomatic and generally fantastic. It's Frags, and for this week's review, he's strapped in and pushed the pedal to the metal as he went cross-country from San Fran to New York. I say it like it was a walk in the park, but I'm pretty sure it was chaos. But enough speculation, let's see what Frags thought of Need for Speed: The Run.
The race is from San Fran to New York. The best racers ever assembled. The purse is $25 million.
You ready? Bring it home, Jack.
Salutations and welcome to Fraggy's Gaming Den, where today we're getting in gear with the latest title in the Need for Speed franchise. This is The Run. Now, if you're a racing enthusiast, you're probably already well versed with this long-standing series, which has, for the last 18 years or so, been at the forefront of racing video games. A franchise famous for delivering action-focused street racing, the Need for Speed games have always relished their bad boy image of fast cars and fast living.
Didn't expect you to show your face again.
However, in recent years, the series has gotten a little muddled, branching off into drift racing with the Fast and Furious-inspired Need for Speed Pro Street, and even an admirable attempt at circuit racing with last year's Need for Speed Shift, both of which were met with lukewarm success. So this year the franchise is looking to reinvent itself yet again, going back to its action-oriented roots. Telling the story of an illicit high-stakes race across the country with $25 million on the line, The Run has you play Jack Rourke, a man marked by the mafia and in dire need of the money. And all that stands in your way are 200 other drivers and 3,000 miles of road. So, as far as racing games go, pretty epic as you look to make it all the way from San Francisco to New York in a cross-country race across the United States. But aside from a newly minted story, what else does this modern-day Cannonball Run have to offer? Well, strap on in, because we're about to go rogue with Need for Speed: The Run.
1081, initiating country pursuit. Roger that, what are we looking for?
Now, if you're like me and a little sick of just going round and round doing laps in your racing games, then the best thing about The Run are just the varied locations that you get to race in. Just in the way it's set up, the race of your life is a high-speed chase across some of the most detailed environments ever seen in a racer. And whether it's driving in the cities, or across the deserts, and even mountain canyons, the scenery is always a sight to behold. In addition to looking good, many of the maps are also dynamic, changing from moment to moment, and from instances of sheer panic trying to dodge an oncoming avalanche, down to times when you're tasked with outrunning a speeding train. The Run does a great job at keeping the adrenaline flowing, ditching all that realism for intense, all-out action. And finally, after I was done, I did enjoy going online, where the all-new matchmaking system allows rooms to be set up pretty quickly. Once you're in, you can vote on which levels you'd like to race on, see your standings, and even join races as they're in progress, so you're never really stuck in a lobby. Nice touch. Now, unfortunately for everything good that this package has to offer, there are more than a few problems with this year's Need for Speed. First off, while the run is billed as a no-rules race against 200 other competitors, it actually feels much smaller because you're never racing more than 10 people at any time. Beat these 10, and you move on to another leg of the race, where you have to beat yet another 10 opponents. Sure, there are a couple of checkpoint races where you're tasked to make up time, and even races where you have to beat rivals in a one-on-one situation. But by and large, it's all about moving from position 200 to hopefully position 1, 10 cars at a time. A little repetitive to say the least. Also, if you saw the trailers and you're looking for some sort of compelling story to tie all the action together, well, you're probably going to be disappointed, because aside from the cutscenes looking nice, there's hardly any purpose to the plot at all, and in the end, I was wondering why the developers even bothered including it. And finally, gamers expecting the run to go on for a bit will probably be surprised that if you're good behind the wheel, the story mode in this game can be completed in just over 2 short hours. Not exactly the best value, especially if you consider the amount of content that the competition is offering. You know, when it comes down to it, Need for Speed: The Run is actually a really competent racing game that seems to be fighting off a host of problems, like a story that doesn't stick and some less than convincing artificial intelligence. However, thankfully, when it comes to its core components, The Run also manages to do a bunch of things right for a racing game. The stages are beautiful, they race well, and most importantly, when you get into it, Need for Speed: The Run is a lot of fun. It's also got a unique setting, with some of the most interesting landscapes to grace video game racing. It's just that, on the whole, the package feels kinda like a lovely bit of filet mignon wrapped with duct tape. I mean, the meat's all quality, and if you dig in, you'll probably find something you enjoy a lot. It's just a shame on how it's all been presented. It's not a terrible game by any means, but if you're only looking to invest in one racing game this year, I think your money is better spent elsewhere.
Thanks, Frags. Now, the NFS series makes us some beautiful racing, and while it's probably not one for the racing purists, the run sure is easy on the eyes. Well, it's time to press pause on the action for a quick commercial break, but don't worry, Game will be back with the best free-to-plays of the week. And it's off to the shops for our weekly wrap-up of some awesome games you might have missed out on. Welcome back to Game. Glad you stayed with us. Now, this week on our search for the Holy Grail, which is none other than the most awesome free games to be found online, we're averting death. So be a champion and don't forget to take down the URLs. This is Online.
In this week's edition of Online, we kick things off with a dip into the deep blue for a little life-saving 101. In I Need Air, It's your job as submarine gunner to shoot the chains that are holding the people to the ocean floor. A simple enough game to understand, just watch out for that friendly fire cause shooting people causes them to lose their health. So that's how that works. Oh, and one more thing, our unlucky friends also can't hold their breath for very long. So hurry up, the longer you take, the more these guys start sleeping with the fishes. So if this point and click offering looks like something you'd like to dive into, give it a shot at the link below. Next up, time to cry havoc as we unleash the doggies of war in the strangely titled Vox Populi, Vox Dei. A Latin title meaning the voice of the people is the voice of God. This adventure has you play a dog-like creature on a mission for a little bit of the old ultra-violence. Using your sneaking skills to get behind your enemies, leap through the air like a hunter eyeing his prey. Just be careful to time those jumps well, cause miss one and it's Betty Bye time at the end of a Gatling gun. So, if you think you've got the guile, practice your shadow movements and get ready to attack at the link below. And finally, in our last freebie of the week, Survival is the name of the game as we turn our attention to a title all about making it out of the wilderness. In Balloon in a Wasteland, your hot air balloon has just crash landed, and it's up to you to get it airborne again. But in addition to trying to repair the balloon as fast as you can, you'll also have to contend with hordes of wasteland predators, all out for a quick meal. Helping you out along the way though is a friendly mobile shopkeeper who sells you weapons, traps, and fortifications. So pick up that coin for those much needed supplies, and if you want to shoot straight, be sure to get enough sleep. Like a reality show without all the bickering, Balloon in a Wasteland is survival at its best. You can get it at the link below.
Now I have to say, I don't think I did so well with that last one. Balloon in a Wasteland is a lot harder than it looks. Well, at least I wouldn't recommend playing it using a trackpad, that's for sure. But nevertheless, some hours to be wasted with those. Now we understand that you guys are busy people. You don't have time to check out every new game that comes onto the shelves, but you're lucky because that's what we're here for. This week we trip down a road which you'll find familiar. The themes are common, but the games, well, they're exceptional. Enjoy it, it's The Wrap.
Hot on the store shelves this week, one for all the real-time strategy fans as we play God with Anno 2070. A building game that's set in the predicted future of doom and gloom. This city management simulation sees humanity in the year 2070, a time when global warming has melted the Arctic ice cap, raising sea levels so high that the only land that remains are the tops of mountains. Now your job as the architect of the future is to build a society by colonizing islands, eventually going on to build sprawling megacities. Featuring an evolving dynamic setting where your decisions impact both the look of the world and the needs of its population. If you've always been one for building, this future-centered city management sim is out now. Also available at your neighborhood game store, get ready for some manic open-world action with the 3rd Street Saints. Picking up where the prequel left off, Saints Row the Third sees the gang sitting pretty atop the helm of the city of Stillwater. But our friends now have to contend with a new villain in the form of an international crime organization called the Syndicate.
And I am Philippe Laurent, chairman of a multinational organization called the Syndicate.
Taking place in a brand new location, an unfamiliar city called Steelport, it's an all-out gang war between the factions in a town that's been endearingly described as Bangkok's abusive father.
packed with all the over-the-top gameplay that has become synonymous with the series. Look out for the School of Hard Knocks at a game store near you. Saints Row the Third is out now for PC, PS3 and Xbox 360. And finally, last but not least on this week's wrap, it's a little action-adventure courtesy of our friendly neighborhood crime-fighting heroes. Holy hand grenades, Batman! This is Arkham City. The sequel to 2009's Arkham Asylum. This time around, the story centers around Batman's imprisonment in Arkham City, a sprawling new super prison that's 5 times bigger than the original, filled with industrial districts, iconic locations, and Gotham City landmarks. Working to thwart the fiendish capers of his arch nemesis, the Joker, this open-world adventure looks to incorporate elements of stealth, as well as the assortment of gadgets that our Cape Crusader is famous for. Hands down the best superhero-themed video game that you can currently get your batty claws on, Arkham City is out now.
Many of you swear by Arkham City, so I hope you enjoyed that little snippet. Tally-ho, time for another break, but don't worry, we'll be back in a flash when game returns. Tell you the future we will. And we explore the uncharted realms of one of this year's biggest releases. Don't go anywhere. You're with me, Kelly, and this is Game, and you are in for a real treat. Love our show, you do. Get your friends to join us on Facebook, you will. Okay, enough of the brainwashing, but I'm sure you understand what I'm getting at and what we're about to give you a glimpse of. Lightsabers at the ready. This is the preview.
Hoping to force push its fans off their feet next month, we begin this edition of the preview with a look at an MMORPG set in a galaxy far, far away. Yep, looking to convince yet another generation of fans that these aren't the droids you're looking for. We pave the way for the upcoming Star Wars: The Old Republic. The title marks LucasArts' first foray into the cutthroat MMO market since their flagship title Star Wars Galaxy, which has unfortunately decided to close its doors at the end of this year. Having already sunk a massive $135 million into its development, Lucas and his boys are indeed hoping for the Old Republic to be a massive success, and from the looks of it, seems like they might be right. With the highest number of pre-orders for any EA game released in the company's history, watch out for this intergalactic space opera to hit the shelves sometime next month. And lastly, we get our feet back to Earth as we hit the ground running with the open-world tactical shooting of Arma 3. Long since considered one of the most authentic first-person shooter games ever made, Arma 3 sees us in the near future as players take on the role of Captain Scott Miller of the British Special Forces, a man sent to a secret Mediterranean island deep behind enemy lines. Set off the beautiful coasts of Greece, look out for improvements like photorealistic terrain, as well as dynamic water, in a game world that's over 900 square kilometers in size. Facing the dangers of modern warfare, an unforgiving environment, and the consequences of his own decisions,
If you like your combat to be a little less run and gun and a little bit more calculated cold steel, look out for Arma 3 when it hits early next year.
You know, sometimes I wish we didn't preview so far into the future. I want to play these games right now. All right, I feel a tantrum coming on, so let's move on before I throw a full-blown hissy fit. Okay, so when it comes to our favorite video game levels, I'm sure each and every one of us has his or her own personal faves. But have you guys actually stopped to think about what goes on behind the art of designing a game? Giving us an insight into some of the decisions that go behind the favorite level of yours, we listen in on some developer secrets from the team behind Uncharted 3: Drake's Deception.
The game starts simultaneously in the hands of the designers and then in the hands of the writers, Amy specifically. And so they're kind of in parallel. Amy's writing the story and the designers are designing levels. So sometimes a level is designed long before we have any clue what the story is.
It's a very creative environment, and I think in all creative environments you can't just start 2 years before the project is supposed to be released and say, okay, here's a blueprint of what it's supposed to be. Everyone go off, do their thing, and then we'll meet back here in 2 years and it will be perfect. No, no, no. That's not how it works.
One of the things that we wanted to do for this project was to improve the way that the artists could work with the engine. It was a bit rigid, and you know, we were foreseeing a lot more sort of action scenes and cinematic events and all of these things, which require a lot more sort of specific control over the environment.
We've expanded the scope in pretty much every way. Every feature we could think of that would make the game better, we tried it. Most of the time we kept it in. A couple things we tried and didn't like, but in general we've just made everything much bigger and better.
It's very creative in the beginning. After our brainstorming meetings, we know that there's some things. We can go off and start pushing the technology in the direction that we know we might go. But yeah, the storyline, which characters, what they will do, that's all up in the air, and it really comes late in the project.
If you come up with some part of the story that's really neat, but is not going to be very fun, you have to negotiate with the designers. Okay, how can we change the story slightly to make this gameplay fun? And then you have vice versa. For instance, there's a chase scene in Yemen. We're chasing a guy through a level. We had no idea who that guy was for, I'd say, about a year and a quarter. But we had the level, we made it. We didn't know who he was gonna be. And then finally the story caught up, and then boom, we know who that is now.
One of the main focuses is obviously characters. Our whole game is about characters and making sure that we can really deliver the environment and the storytelling that Amy and all of our designers want to portray in the game. We need to facilitate that somehow, and that is pushing the boundaries for how we do character animation, pushing the boundaries of grounding in the environment, things we didn't have in Uncharted 2 that just adds that little extra believability to the game. For example, if you're running really fast into a corridor with a 90-degree turn, you don't just happily take the corner, you actually kind of struggle, you touch the wall maybe to push yourself forward.
Ship seems like a great thing, you know, it's something which makes it more interesting because it's actually moving. So when you climb on a boat, it's quite different from climbing on a solid structure. The biggest change for us in terms of graphics was that now you're talking about the whole group of things that is together, moving together. So essentially they're levels that are strung together, and the whole level is moving. It's not individual object, it's a level that is moving, and we didn't have that before, so we needed to implement that.
We had technological challenges for almost every single level. The burning and collapsing building while you're in it. The cruise ship that is actually being driven by huge, enormous waves to rotate an environment 90 degrees. and have the character and the objects and everything still work, and now you're walking on like the side of the environment instead of the floor, it's not something that's trivially accomplished. It is so fulfilling walking away and saying, you know what, that game we made, it wasn't just, which we hope obviously well received by our fans, but it was fun to make.
Pretty interesting to see just how much thought goes behind making some of the titles that we love so much. Kind of makes you appreciate the art of game design a little bit more, don't you think? And with that, that's all I've got for you this week. Good news though, our website is now fully functional with complete episodes of Game up for streaming. You guys have been asking for them for a while now, so check them all out at espnstar.com/game. And remember, if you fancy a bit of banter online, facebook.com/ESSgame is the place. And the links to online will be up on twitter.com/ESSgame real soon, so get following. Till next week, guys, we'll see you then.
Dashing through the snow, and laughing all the way, ha ha ha.
That's messed up, Steve.
That sweater's messed up.
Cabela's Big Game Hunter 2012, the game everyone wants to play.